Settlement issues swirling about once again. Ripple versus the SEC. We'll discuss the likelihood that happens at this late juncture. And then also we have some updated information on Tranglo. The news that possibly Ripple sold off their ownership interest in one of their big partners there. We'll discuss a little bit there before we get into it. It's amazing how front and center crypto and technology in a lot of ways is in politics right now. We see Ripple donating $1 million to unseat Elizabeth Warren. I've said before, it's a tall order. It's highly unlikely that anyone's going to unseat her. But if there ever was someone that could, an underdog that could come out of nowhere and get the job done, I think John Deaton is the guy. Let's see, can he pull this out? And even if he doesn't, you have to see the way the tides are changing. And I think she's losing a lot of her power because her policy, her influence over regulators like the SEC have been wildly destructive. And I just don't see her being the force she has been over the last 4 years, a force of doom and gloom, of destruction, of disaster. I think even if she remains, a lot of her power will be stripped away. Big props to Ripple for making that very important donation. It ain't over yet. If you want to support John, if you believe he can get this done, just remember this battle goes on. He can use all the help he can get. I'll put the link down below where you can support John Deaton's campaign for those that might be interested. You know, this is part of the reason why it's going to be very unpopular to be anti-crypto. We see Ripple's doing a lot less hiring in the U.S. We want, strong regulations. We want to protect investors and markets and all of this stuff. We should be doing our best to ensure your Do Kwons and your Mashinskis and your SBFs aren't running wild. But you don't want to take businesses like Ripple and say, you know what, if they're going to hire an employee and pay wages, let's make sure that doesn't happen in the United States. That economic activity happens overseas. That's failed policy. That is a failure of the highest order. And that's the problem with regulation by enforcement. You chase off the real businesses that would bring very real economic activity here in the United States, and you let the criminals run wild. This is the result of Gary Gensler's failed policy here. Now, I did a video on this yesterday. President Trump's pick for his running mate VP, J.D. Vance, is such a departure from what we would normally see. His appeal, the reason he's being selected here is his connection to technology, to crypto, to venture capital. One of the other candidates, Governor Burgum, he had this huge connection to the energy sector, and so many people were sure that would be the pick, and traditionally he would have been. The energy sector would have been the play. Not this time around. And I don't think we've ever had someone this high up in an administration that is so tuned into what's going on in innovation, artificial intelligence, technology, cryptocurrencies. And it's an important time as well because we are crafting, sensible regulations around all of these various tech industries. Now, there are many things that would make a good vice president. I have no idea if J.D. Vance is a good pick. Again, it's more than just, technology and crypto. I'm just saying from that vantage point, you are seeing the tides change, and it probably will be on both sides. A key element going forward that you better have close connections and a deep understanding of these emerging areas of technology. Because again, these companies are the size of nation states. They are so massive. This is what really is driving the global economy. And you'll see a lot of these other industries that have always been front and center, the most important, your energy sector, stuff like that, kind of, I think, fade away in a way. I mean, there's still a lot of money there. They'll still have a lot of influence. But I think we'll see technology really leapfrog a lot of those industries and be a center focus of these administrations going forward. Not just this ticket, but I believe that's going to be a reoccurring theme. Larry Fink talking about specifically Bitcoin, but crypto in general. A lot of people have been talking about, his interview where he said, yes, this is a real asset class. You should hold some of this in your portfolio. And he was just focusing on, Bitcoin's role is a protection of your wealth, a digital gold, a hedge against all sorts of issues. And it's all true. Geopolitical issues, monetary problems. These are some of the best use cases of cryptocurrencies. But remember, it's not just that. And we will eventually shift beyond only those narratives and looking at the systems, the altcoin systems that are used to build the future, whether it's the future of payments or decentralized finance or all sorts of decentralized applications. The future is decentralized, and there's so much exciting stuff going on with altcoins. Over the next couple years, you will see that shift where people get it and they're like, yes, this is valid. Sound monetary policy, digital gold, storage of value, protection of assets. That's a huge use case, but there's a heck of a lot more out there that will be important. And you'll start to see that institutional interest go that way, and you'll see more ETFs, and it's just going to be a full integration. It's going to be amazing. Make sure you're prepared for that shift because it will be massive. It will be quick. We are knocking on that door. All right, I'm seeing a lot of issues swirling around that there's going to be a Ripple and SEC settlement. And this is my general opinion. At this point in time, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. We're all the way at the end. If the SEC was going to settle, I thought they sure were. I thought to take this to the end was very dangerous for them. If they were going to do it, they would have got the payday by doing it earlier. There's not a lot left here to risk. They're going to get some sort of fines and penalties. What are you going to settle on at this point? The only way that happens is if the administration goes to them and says, you know what, this is hurting us politically. In my opinion, the damage is already done. I don't know why they would even bother at this point in time. But if they said, every court case you can, of course, you can't settle out everything if there's someone that's clearly doing something illegal or wrong. But if you can get rid of it, get it off the docket, settle it out, make it happen, and make it happen yesterday. If that happens, then yeah, you could see a settlement here. But other than that, I think both parties are going to sit back and see what the judge has to say. Now, you may ask yourself, why would Ripple even bother at this point in time? And I think the only reason you would even, read any settlement from the SEC is, first of all, the lock-in risk. You would know what your payment amount would be because they're going to pay something here. We know that. But even further, if they settle this thing out, we know for sure there's not going to be an appeal. Now, I'd be very surprised if there's an appeal on this case going forward, especially with the political environment where being anti-crypto is a liability. I don't see that happening. And the fact that if they take this to appeals, they'll probably lose badly. But even with that being said, if you have a chance to take risk off the table, you do it. So it could happen. I just don't foresee it. I think we're going to get a ruling from the judge here. We'll take a look at the reasoning, which is even more important to me than the actual penalty amount. And I don't think you'll hear from this again. They'll pay the money. It'll be over. No one's going to appeal. Just my best guess. Now let's talk about Tranglo. There were some updates. If you want the nitty gritty, the specifics, the raw information here, go watch Crypto Eddie's video today. She breaks it all down. But some people on Twitter pulled up some information, and it looks like Ripple did sell their interest in Tranglo. My point on this was not like it's the end of the world. It's a big deal. But the reason a company like Ripple invests in Tranglo, takes a 40% stake. I've been arguing, with people on this on Twitter. They just don't get it. Ripple is not making an investment like that for trading gains. It's not like you or I where we buy a meme coin or we buy a hot stock and then we're like, whoa, that value ran up. We better take some gains off the table. Like, that's not the point of this type of investment. Can you imagine if Microsoft went, wow, we put this massive investment in OpenAI and the value of it has skyrocketed. We think we'll sell that off to Apple. Like, you would never sell off those strategic partners because they are vital to what you're doing. They're vital to your forward operation. And if someone did do that, if they sold off that asset, that pretty much tells you that that's not a centerpiece of what you're doing. Likely whatever they were doing with Tranglo and on-demand liquidity ain't that important. It probably didn't end up being that great. That's my only point here. If the Tranglo partnership, which has been beat to death as this massive deal, if it was front and center, if it was cranking out being ultra successful, they would not sell their stake in that no matter what. You have situations where an oil company might sell off their interest in a pipeline, but not if it's instrumental to their operations. You don't want to leave anything up for chance. That's why you make those investments, to make sure you have an interest and a say and you can secure that partnership. This was supposed to be really big. That's why Ripple made this massive move and took a 40% interest in that company because it was vital to ODL. At least at that time, that was the plan. And I'm telling you, if they sold it out, it didn't end up being that vital. That's my only point. Now, it could be a lot of things. Maybe they have another partnership or another investment that fills that role and it's just not that important to them anymore. I'm not saying it's an epic failure. I'm just saying things with Tranglo didn't probably work out as, they had envisioned originally, as many things have not. When these partnerships fail, When they don't work out, I'm not going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it and say, well, Ripple made some massive trading gains. Who cares? We're not in this for making capital gains. We're in here to land important partnerships, build out infrastructure. And if that investment didn't work out for that reason, it wasn't a success. And it's okay to say that. Look, this is an emerging technology. What Ripple is trying to do ain't easy. We understand that. When I say things like I think Ripple's going to knock the stablecoin out the park, they have to do it, but I believe they will. And I believe on-chain DeFi is going to, grow and be successful. And all these feature sets ultimately are going to be great on the XRP ledger. Most people that are close to this, they say I'm crazy for believing that we're going to turn the corner, that Ripple will be successful, that the XRP ledger is going to get traction. They're so close to all of this, they'll point out all these failures along the road. And they're like, what are you even looking at? And I'll tell you what's front and center. When it was all on the line, and it was do or die, the most important issue to date was this court case versus the SEC. It could have sunk everything. And people forget, when that court case was launched, and the SEC made all these accusations about Ripple, most people were running for the hills. And I came out with that statement. I support Chris Larsen. I support Brad Garlinghouse. And they stood there and fought back, and they delivered the victory of the century to really secure all of our futures, because that was an attack on XRP as much as it was on Brad, Chris, and Ripple, the entity. And if they could deliver at those stakes with that kind of pressure, I believe they can launch a little stablecoin and have some growth and success. I believe they can work out some of these problems we have right now about how to support people that run infrastructure and developers. And, these are issues we need to solve, but they're nothing like that. They're nothing like those early days of that court case. That was really the insurmountable problem in our way, and we got over it. And I just believe this management team can execute what's in front of them. Does it mean I'm always going to say they're perfect, they're right? And you know what? Sometimes I'm just going to be wrong, and I may be negative about something, and maybe I'm totally off base. That's okay too, but I'm going to give you my real opinion on stuff like this Tranglo deal. Because if someone's always sunshine and rainbows, if you're an XRP, over a half a decade later, and it's still waffling at 50 cents, and, Ripple is still trying to get companies you might have heard of before using on-demand liquidity and showing some profits in that company from something besides selling XRP, like, this journey has not been all sunshine and rainbows. And if day in and day out someone's told you everything is great and everything is perfect, they're full of it. We've run into obstacles. I think this will get fixed. I think we're going to have great performance, but I'm always going to give you my real opinion. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.